Going to defenders. Cameron Carter-Vickers, fresh off of winning the Scottish Premiership with Celtic, is in. Christopher Loons from Palermo, Serie B. They're currently in the playoffs to get promoted, taking on Venezia. We'll get into that a little bit later for Americans Abroad segment. Mark McKenzie coming in from Genk from Belgium. Tim Ream making the move, got his first start in a couple months for Fulham this past weekend. We have Chris Richards, Anthony Robinson, Miles Robinson, Joe Scally. No big surprises there. But here, everybody, Shaq Moore. Shaq Moore, Chuck, what are we saying about Shaq Moore? I know that Serginho Dest is hurt, so you want to give some cover in that area, but he was not on my bingo card to be anywhere near this roster.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know, you have cover. You have Joe Scally. You have players who can play in the outside back position that aren't your typical outside back. So, there's 27 guys on this roster and only 26 you can take to Copa America. So, I mean, maybe he's that one player, but yeah, I'm a little puzzled by that, because it's not as if Shaq Moore was lighting MLS up, right? It's one thing if he has 8 assists and maybe 3 goals and he's wowing everybody, but Nashville have been dreadful, so much so that they fired Gary Smith, right? So, yeah, that's a puzzling one for me.
Okay, any thoughts, Mick Brizzle? Anybody who doesn't know, Brian McBride's nickname from Carlos Bocanegra back in the day when we saw him in camp, Mick Brizzle. So if we call him Mick Brizzle, you know where that's coming from. Mick Brizzle, what are your thoughts on the defenders?
Listen, I love Shaq Moore being a part of this group, and I say that because in my opinion, he's our best 1v1 defender as an American. So, you can see when he's come into this team, and sometimes he's come into this team hadn't even been playing when he was over in Europe, and he steps and fits right into this group. Yeah, Charlie, I get it. He's not going to give you the offensive output that a Serginho Dest might, but if he gets caught on an island, he is someone you can count on to defend. And that's really the one thing I think that he has over a Joe Scally, that he has over a Christopher Lund, because you can put him on the field and say, hey, yes, we want you to get forward. We want you to put crosses into the penalty area and make sure that you're pressing. He's got enough pace to press high, but also recover. And at the same time, if he gets put in 1v1 situation, in my opinion, I think he's our best 1v1 defender. And in Copa America, against some really skillful wingers that he's going to be going up against, I really like it.
I think what's interesting about Shaq Moore hasn't started the last 3 games for Nashville. Came on as a sub in their 1-0 loss against Charlotte, 16 minutes there. Scored against Toronto FC, the 2-0 win for Nashville, but 45 minutes in that one, 45 minutes in their 1-1 draw against Atlanta United.
He hasn't played well.
He's been working. He's been working back from injury, so that's part of it too. And like you said, it could be a situation that he's brought in so Greg gets a chance to see how he fits in and where his fitness level is. I think there's a couple of players on this roster are in that situation, and he's got the leeway to let one of them go.
I just think from my perspective, and I 100% understand from your side of things, one-on-one defending, lockdown, but I feel like at this level, at the national team in 2024, 2020, heading into a Copa America, talking about a World Cup in 2026, you're right back, because outside backs have become so important in build up and attacking play and in finding those isolations, especially when you're talking about Serginho Dest. The drop off from Serginho Dest to Shaq Moore is massive. We're talking planets. So for me, why would you make that decision in bringing in Shaq Moore? And I get the whole defending thing, but at this stage, we want players who can be a little bit more creative with the ball at their feet, and you can trust them to create. And that has not been him from what I've seen from him.
But you go back to the Gold Cup when he was brought in, when the Gold Cup was played with the Nations League and they won the Gold Cup in the final versus Mexico. That first match against Canada, he's the one who provided the assist. He has the ability, in my opinion, to make some offensive plays to help this team, get into the final third and has the ability to make the final pass. What you're looking at right now is a Nashville team that has been decimated. Walker Zimmerman was injured for a long time. They haven't found their way to get forward. You've got, Mukhtar, who hasn't necessarily really gotten into a groove that we've seen from him before. So I think judging how he's played or the lack of playing time because of injury is difficult for you to, in my opinion, difficult for me to say he doesn't deserve to be on this team because
Right.
he can get forward. He can provide those situations.
Yeah, I think I'm looking back at the January camp roster that we had, and Shaq Moore did play in that game. And I remember thinking he didn't make the most of it in that particular moment. Miles Robinson, obviously captain for that game. He was there. And then Timmy Tillman, who we're going to get into the midfielders as well. But those three players are the only from the January camp that are currently on this roster. Before we get into the midfielders, any players that you think maybe should have been in? Austin Trusty obviously got a ton of experience getting watching the goals hit the back of his net with Sheffield United.
It's 100+ goals conceded. So.
Yeah, it's hard to call it anybody.
I know you're playing in the Prem, but you're literally just running in the Prem, I guess. You're saying I can run towards my own goal in the Prem, yeah.
And then Walker, as Brian mentioned, coming back from injury, not surprised to not see him in, but I wonder if we're going to see him as an overage player for the Olympics. Would you guys consider Walker Zimmerman for the Olympics, Brian, as an overage player? I obviously think that, well, that's an area where we're vulnerable in this particular team. And so having some leadership, having some presence in that particular area of the field, I think is important in the spine of the team ultimately. But would you take Walker to the Olympics?
Yeah, I would. And I know there's the conversation you have to have in Nashville, especially Nashville, not having a great start to the season. It's going to be difficult for them to say, hey, we'll let him go. But on Morning Footy, I said, should be Walker Zimmerman, Kellen Acosta, and then your forward between Haji Wright and Ricardo Pepi. Those are the ones I'd sort of throw in as, in my opinion, who I take as your three. And you're exactly right, Jimmy. Walker Zimmerman gives you not only the leadership, but he gives you bite. He gives you great aerial quality, winning duels defensively, scoring goals on set pieces in the attacking side of the field. And he's someone that has experience in big tournaments. And we talked about Sean Johnson being a great leader. Walker is a great leader. He is someone that players on the field will look at him and see his intensity and see his desire, and it just becomes contagious. So for me, it makes sense for Walker to go to the Olympics.
Well, so Ricardo Pepi is not overaged, so he could go in as a U23. So you could bring in actually somebody on top of Ricardo Pepi, which would be interesting.